Will Smith done fucked him up. That deserves a drink. Good evening, old salts, young blue jackets, intrepid explorers, couch potatoes, people who are here for the drinks, people who are here for the stories, and those of you who are here to just shake your head. Welcome to another exciting episode of Before the Mast, a show where I relive my past glories for posterity and mix interesting, if not delicious, beverages to savor while we hack through the memories like a drunk with a machete in the jungle. I am Aaron Burks, not just a passenger on this train to the madhouse. I'm the god-dang engineer. Tonight, we're going to explore a cocktail called the Bali Adventure, which is my take on another cocktail called the Bali Highball. The original specs call for club soda, but I don't really like club soda, so we're just going to tweak it a little bit. After that, I'll tell you part of my 3-day Bali bender in January 1998. But first, let's head over to the Laka Laka Lounge, where liquid libations lead to lightheartedness. Hello. And now the star of our show, gin. With a supporting cast of guava nectar, grenadine, limes, cocktail shaker, a jigger, and a Collins glass with ice.
Grab your Liberty card. The launch is leaving.
Let's start with 1.5 ounces of gin. I'm using Tanqueray. Two ounces of guava nectar. Three-quarters of an ounce of grenadine. And 1/2 ounce of lime. Fresh is always best. Now shake it like it's some guy that just made fun of your wife's hairdo and you have to do something about it because she caught you laughing, just so that the ride home isn't totally awkward. Garnish with a lime wheel. And there it is, the Bali Adventure. Sulang. That's really good. You know, it's sweet, but it's just hard enough that it's not too sweet, and the gin really comes out. So if you like gin, you'll like this drink. If you don't like gin, you may still like this drink. It's kind of like a Cape Codder. Try it yourself. Tell me what you think down in the comments. quite a time in Bali. In January of 1998, I was on the homeward bound leg of the deployment to the Persian Gulf that started on October 27th, 1997. Now, in January 1998, I was still relatively new to the Navy. I had been in the fleet for about a year, maybe a little more. This was my first deployment on my first ship, the USS Peleliu, the Iron Nickel, Cell Block 5, USS Peloponnese. See, kids, every ship in the fleet has a nickname. Some have more than others. Take our sister ship, USS Tarawa, for example. Her nickname was Eagle of the Sea. But we aboard USS Peleliu had given our dear sister the sobriquet Chicken of the Sea. The nicknames are bestowed by the fleet or by the commands themselves. Peleliu's nickname was the Iron Nickel. Impressive sounding. But the sailors, well, they come up with other nicknames, all their own. Towards the mid to late 90s, the command had gained a reputation of being full of blue falcons. Record amounts of crew members were being put on restriction for otherwise minor offenses. At one point, there were so many men, it was an all-male ship at the time, on restriction that it formed an entire division. Members of this division were given a red tag to hang on their uniforms, what Peleliu crewmen started calling the Red Badge of Courage. So she got the nickname Cell Block 5. Then one of my best friends blurted out, Peloponnese, after having been dicked around one too many times. The name was so ridiculous it bared repeating. And repeating again. Anywho, USS Peleliu dropped anchor off of Kuta Beach on the island's southwestern side. We took these rickety boats driven by people with questionable seamanship skills and varying levels of sobriety to the shore, where we stepped off directly into a rather aggressively operated flea market. Over the cacophony of "you buy" and "special price" and "my friend," my Liberty buddy Luna asked where we should go. We decided we'd get food and beverage at the most exotic place the island had to offer, Hard Rock Cafe. We were men of high imagination. But first, I had spied some pretty nice watches at a little booth. Rolexes and Timexes and Casios. I decided I could use a stylish watch. I got a Rolex for about 100,000 rupiah. That staggering sum was the equivalent to 5 whole American dollars. I paid the lady and clamped that watch onto my wrist and walked about 50 feet down the walkway, and that watch literally fell apart. I took it back. The lady acted like she'd never even seen me before. That's when I realized I just took 100,000 rupiah hit. That was okay, because just a few short booths away was another watch vendor. This time, I got an Omega. It was more expensive at 150,000 rupiah, but I decided to treat myself. I deserved it. I paid the guy, strapped the watch on, which immediately, and in front of the guy, came apart. The man looked at me blankly and then started helping the guy behind me. Not taking the hint that perhaps a watch wasn't going to happen for me, I bought a third watch. Miraculously, this one stayed on my wrist. At least, up until I took it off in the bathroom at Hard Rock Cafe in order to wash my hands. I left it by the sink. Rumor has it it's still there. Time is fleeting, as they say. After we had eaten the traditional Balinese delicacy of cheeseburgers and french fries, Luna, Martinez, Maravetti, O'Brien, Peterson, and myself all piled into a little VW bus. Yeah, not the cool 1960s kind either, the ugly rinky-dink 1980s model. This thing had no AC, and in Bali it was the height of summer. It was hot, damp, moist, like a marathon runner's ass crack. I was sitting by the door, in the middle row. The window on my side did not work. Jones was sitting bitch, and Martinez was sitting by the window on the other side. Luna, lucky bastard, got to ride shotgun. And in the back row was Peterson, Maravetti, and O'Brien, with O'Brien riding bitch. Poor Jones was sweating like a pig at a luau. He turned and asked Martinez if he could sit by the window for just a few minutes. Well, Martinez flatly refused. Jones pressed on. "Come on, man, it's really hot. Just let me sit by the window for a minute." Martinez, now less politely than before, if you can believe that, again told him no. Jones says, "Dude, just for a minute." Martinez finally turned to Jones and said, "No, and if you say anything else, I'm going to punch you in the nose." Jones, apparently impervious to reading between the lines, said, "I just want to sit by the window for a minute." Well, Martinez, if nothing else, is a man of his word. He turned and popped Jones right in the schnoz. Jones started bleeding everywhere and crying. Martinez calmly turned back and stuck his face out the window like the world's happiest puppy. And he said, "I warned you." Well, the driver was freaked out because just as this moment happened, he was driving up to an armed checkpoint. The driver pulled over and he turned around and, without speaking and only facial expressions, told us that if we couldn't get it together, he would turn this car around. We pressed on and ended up at our destination, Purataman Ayun Temple. Luna handed the driver an extra, 3 million rupiah and said, "This is for the fight." The Purataman Ayun ancient temple is some distance north into the interior of the island. And then we set about doing what sailors do in exotic locales. We took pictures. We took gag pictures. We hit on girls from other countries. And then we ended up in some area teeming with monkeys. We saw a little female monkey run ahead of us. How did we know it was a female? I'm glad you asked. Well, suddenly behind us, we heard, and no shit, sure as I'm sitting in this chair, a dude monkey came swinging off a vine. Quite literally, a swinging dick. He landed a perfect 10 on this girl monkey and just started going at it. The monkey looked back at us with a shit-eating grin as if to say, "Bet you wish you were monkeys now, huh?" Well, after all that excitement, we needed a drink. So we went to this place in town that was like a pirate ship just got dropped in the middle of the jungle. You had to walk up the gangway to get on board. It was complete with masts, yard arms, and a helm. I noticed that the whole deck was full of the ship's officers. Captain Betancourt, Captain Jones, they were all there. We walked on and it was as though the music stopped. I began to question my bar decision. Just then, Commander Merrill, the ship's navigator, stood up and pointed at me and yelled, "Elvis!" On my first ship, Elvis was my nickname. You'll find out why in a future video. So I went, Gator! See, on an amphibious warship, the navigator is called the Gator because, well, gators are amphibious. But at this point in my career, I was not comfortable with crashing officers' parties, so I and my Liberty party headed below decks to a nice little bar that had an aquarium. The place was bathed in cool blue light, and it definitely had a mood that I could get behind. We all saddled up to the bar, sitting in a row, perched atop abnormally tall stools. We started drinking. We started drinking shots. We started drinking something called a moonshot, which had blue curacao and Baileys in it, but I cannot for the life of me recall what the third layer was. Whatever it was potent. After a few minutes and a few of those, we were greeted by one of the ship's officers, Ensign, well, we'll call him Hasselhoff. Ensign Hasselhoff. He was an intelligence officer. He was blonde and had a square jaw, good looks, like a model. As I recall, though, he wasn't very tall. He was a fun guy, pretty hilarious and generally good-natured. He was also pretty muscular. Maravetti was sitting on the end closest to him, and I was sitting on the end farthest from him. Well, Ensign Hasselhoff came up and playfully punched Maravetti in the arm. Well, one man's playful punch is another man's Academy Awards moment. He sent Maravetti knocking into Martinez, who fell into Peterson, who knocked into O'Brien, who bashed into Jones, who toppled onto Luna, who collapsed into me. And like dominoes, we all, each and every one of us, fell off our stools. Ensign Hasselhoff thought this was hilarious, like some sort of rehearsed Seven Stooges skit. But then he bought us all a round, two, I don't remember, to make up for it. So no harm, no foul. Honestly, beyond that point, I don't remember too much about that night. You'll have to tune in for part 2 of this melee of mirth. Until then, watch who you buy a watch from. Plant yourself squarely on the stool and, for God's sake, give the monkey some privacy. Here's to friends and family who know us well, but love us just the same. That's good shit.
What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? Early in the morning, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises. Early in the morning, put him in the longboat until he's sober, put him in the longboat until he's sober, put him in the longboat until he's sober. Early in the morning.
Like and subscribe, it really helps me out, and hit that notification bell so you get all the notifications. Cheers. How do you say that? Whew, gassy. And if you say anything else, where was I? She loves me.